our investment properties have been fairly easy. Our personal properties, the selling of them has not been easy, but you do have to deal with people in the process. The moral of all of this is nothing is passive and nothing is easy. And so the easier you can make it by using the money in your policy, the better off you are. Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you very much for being here. All right, today, Tarisa and I are going to talk about our personal real estate experiences. Tarissa's only 31, as she disclosed in a previous podcast, but she has a lot of experiences, good and bad. So let's start with you.
Let's jump into it. Okay, so if you guys didn't already listen to the podcast, I'll kind of briefly go over the story again. But one of the stories that led me to infinite banking was my sister got a full ride scholarship to U of A, which is a university in Tucson, Arizona. And she had a 529 plan. And because her college expenses were already being paid for, basically her biggest expense after that was rent. So I was thinking if I provide the qualifying income to the bank and you provide the funds from the 529 plan as a down payment, then you won't have to pay for rent for those. I think she ended up going 4 years. She did her master's in 4 years, which is very impressive. I like reading books more than I like going to traditional school, so that could never be me. But I was like, hey, we could get a property out of this. It'll be good. And so we were under contract for this property in Tucson. It was listed at 145. I think we were offering like 146 or something like that on it. And our mortgage officer called us and said, hey, you guys can't use these funds for this property. They won't allow it, essentially. I wish I had known more people and more things back then because I think there's always a workaround to everything. But essentially what happened was we weren't able to get that property. My sister rented for those 4 or 5 years. So I don't know. What is that? Like 12,000 times 4 or 5? A lot of money that went to someone else that didn't have to because we had money in the wrong place, essentially. And so I actually looked up this property just to really dig the knife in deep about what my opportunity cost was.
Let me get the salt.
Yeah, because I'm a glutton for punishment, apparently. And I was like, okay, we were under contract for 146. This was in 2018. And then in 2023, this property sold for $250,000. So this is what I like to think about. What is the opportunity cost of that? Well, one, over $100,000, number one. Number two, the amount of money that my sister could have saved on rent, which is probably over 60 grand. And then the lost money that we would have received in rents for those 4 or 5 years, plus all future appreciation. It's like it's a college town. So of course you can rent out by the room so easily because people are looking for good accommodation in a safe area. So this is what led me to infinite banking is I was like, I'm so tired of people telling me what I'm supposed to be doing with my money. That just fundamentally doesn't make sense. If I worked for this and I earned it and it's in my pocket, how are you going to dictate what I do with it? You know?
And that's just, and I don't mean to open the wound again, but that's just the $100,000 from then till now.
Right.
If you wouldn't have sold it, what is the appreciation? And we know Arizona's on fire.
Right.
And everybody is moving there. And so what is that appreciation long term? Not just rents long term, right? So the rental that's missed, but long term, if you would not have sold it.
100%. It's like, what would that property be in the future? And because Tucson's also growing, you know, it's cheaper than Phoenix or Gilbert. It's a little bit more cost effective to live in Tucson than it is where I'm at. So yeah, I want to open up that wound for you guys so that you can see where I came from.
Tarisa will take the pain for you. She's so nice.
Yes. So I learned that more than $100,000 opportunity so that I could share it with you all here today.
And I think one of the lessons there too is asking the wrong question.
Mm-hmm.
Tarisa was young enough to say, "Oh, we can't," and she had a mortgage officer that wasn't smart enough to ask the right question either. And the question becomes, how can I?
Absolutely.
Right. And that question, we didn't know to ask the question because you weren't old enough. You didn't have enough people around you. The banker obviously didn't give you any suggestions of what to do because ideally, could have we had somebody else in the family buy the property and use the 529 as rental, because 529s can be used for rent while at
Right.
college. And so I have clients that buy properties so to get money out of their kids' 529 plans.
Yeah.
So
See, so if I had known Mary Jo way back then, I would have been so much better off. And you guys are lucky enough to know her right now. So just think your lucky stars that
and you're
you.
lucky enough to have to share that Tris is sharing the wound with you.
Oh, yes. That's so true, though, because I wish that like Tarisa now would have been like, okay, let's figure out a way around this. Let's figure out how to get this done instead of like, okay, here's a roadblock. It's like, I don't let roadblocks stop me anymore. I'm like, no, this is what I want to have happen. How do we make sure that that happens?
Mhm. Exactly.
Very different approach. But it's like when someone's telling you can't do something and you're kind of green, it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess we can. But I guess the pot of gold at the end of the story is my infinite banking policy. So I started my infinite banking policy shortly after that because I was so upset that I started looking for things that actually worked for people. And I funded my infinite banking policy. And then I bought my first property in 2020 when interest rates were awesome. And I borrowed against my policy to use it for my down payment funds. And I lived in that for a little over 2 years. And we turned it into a short term rental for some time. And then we ended up selling it for quite a bit of profit a couple years later. And then we took those funds, put it into another policy, start another policy, right? Because we're all on board. You can't eat your equity. I'm like, I'm going to have my equity work for me in more than one place. And Tarisa's policy is number one residence for my cash. we love our whole life policies over here. So then I took that and then we bought the residence that we're in now. And then in the meantime, I did a deal with someone they're trying to sell their trailer, trying to get a renter in there, and they were strapped for cash. So I bought in to that opportunity essentially, but I structured it with payments. I was like, hey, I'm not going to give you all this money right away. I'll give it to you over time, but I will take over the cost of lot rent until we get it sold. So it kind of alleviated their bleeding, but I was able to make like over 300% return off of that deal just because I had the liquid capital in order to help ease their pain. So I love real estate. I love using policies for purchasing things that cash flow. And I get really interested in like looking at opportunities.
With the
Sure.
trailer, did you buy it to flip it? Did you buy it and rent it and then sell it?
The goal was to buy it and rent it, but there was just a lot of things falling through. And it just got to the point for me where I was like, this is annoying. Like, I'm annoyed now that I'm dealing with this and it's taking away from the things that I like to do, which is talking about infinite banking to people and helping them out with that. So we ended up selling it, but the goal originally was to rent it. So I think having like at least 3 exit strategies in whatever you're investing in is really important. It's like, okay, ABC, best case, okay case, worst case. And so the numbers penciled out for me in terms of that. But yeah, we did end up selling it and it was still a good deal.
I like the horror story side of it.
Horses.
I know you like sunshine and rainbows, but I think that so many people listening to this podcast listen to me talk about real estate. And you and I just talked about this recently in one of our meetings. And that is that people really think that you should only be able to go into real estate to get wealthy. And that is so not the truth. You can buy businesses, you can do all kinds of stuff. And so let's talk about why you didn't like your short term rental and why you
Oh,
got
yeah.
out of that. Because these things
So-
aren't for everybody. And so I think
They're
it's
not.
important that we share that piece of it as well. I like my short-term rental, but you did not.
I did not. But also, it was because I was managing it. Like, I think I'm super cheap. Like, I'm like, okay, how can I make sure that I get out of this what I want to? But it's like the whole cost of acquisition. It's like, well, that was eating at my time and I'm dealing with things that I don't want to, like people being annoying. Like, hey, I got one comment, okay, I'll tell you guys this story really quickly because it's pretty funny. So I had this lady message me and she was like, hey, we're having a house built in the area. I have dogs. Like, can I bring them? And I was like, no, because I don't want my place smelling like dog. I mean, I said it nicely. I didn't say that. But, everyone that has pets know what dog smells like. It's not a good smell. especially if it's hot, like hot dog. Ew. So, so I was like, hey, no, like, sorry, we don't allow pets. And then this lady still ended up staying there, right, for a short time. I think it was like 4 or 5 days. And then after that, I had a lady come and she was like, hey, just so you know, like your house kind of smells like dog. So here I am thinking, did this lady bring her dogs, even though I told her that she wasn't allowed to? And I always give people the benefit of the doubt. So I reached out to Airbnb. I was like, hey, if this happened, what is my recourse, right? Like, what am I allowed to do? And I did not know that Airbnb would reach out to this lady. And so they did. They're like, hey, this owner said that you brought your dogs, blah, 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 blah. And so she went off on me. She like sent me like a million nasty messages. She's like, I'm going to tell everyone not to stay at your property and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, if I would have known that they would have reached out to her, I would not have inquired, right? Because my intention was to go to her and be like, hey, did you bring your dogs? Because I had a guest mention that it smelled like dog in the house, which is like terrible, right? You're impacting my future reviews. So I don't know. It is great if you're not managing it. Like that was the thing for me was like, looking back, I wish that I wasn't the one managing it. I think I would have probably kept that property if I had just passed it off to someone else. And that is a good lesson, again, for you guys all to learn. If your main income or your main business doesn't have anything to do with real estate, like just pay someone else to do it because it makes you sleep easy at night and it makes you not have to worry about your house smelling.
And I just did a podcast on this. Focus, people. Focus on the
Mhm.
thing that makes you money. And so I can see it in my business. The second that I put time into rentals or I put time into farming or I put time into an avenue that is not infinite banking, my business does not grow. It just kind of stays level. It might grow a hair, but it doesn't take off like it should. And so if we are focusing somewhere else, why are we doing that? Yes, we're going to lose a little bit of money over here, but if our main focus is our business, then you need your business to be running, or you need people in your business to be running your business. Even the people in your business, are they really running it? But Airbnb, this is my warning on Airbnbs, is I have somebody that helps me manage mine. Okay.
Smart.
And we live very close to ours, so we don't necessarily have to have help all the time. But if it were not for him helping us manage, I would not know how particular you have to be about what you say to Airbnb or VRBO, or like you can't share phone numbers. Somebody will say, hey, I need you to call me because I need to know how far you are from this location. And we cannot share phone numbers because they think you're going to take that business off of Airbnb and they're going to
Mm,
lose the money off of that. And I get
right.
it, but it's so funny because then you're like in there trying to, like, our guest created this grocery list with how many apples he wanted, how many whatever. It took the guy forever to figure out that was his phone number on the backside of the grocery list. And I never figured it out. I'm like, why are you talking to the dude about groceries? He's like, Mary Jo, that's my phone number. That if he gets it, he'll see that that's my phone number. But that's how we have to break AI from Airbnb. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much to know about it. And people think, oh, it's just easy. I'll just go in and I'll clean and it'll all be good.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of like I don't know, when people are like, oh, passive income, it's like, there's just so
There,
full of it. It's
I
not
think
passive
Nelson has said it. There is nothing passive about passive income.
if you pay someone else to do it. That's how it's passive. And even
It's
then, it's
passed
not.
on to someone else.
Yeah, that's what it should be called. It's not passive, it's passed on. You have to pass on the task to someone else for it to be passive.
It is not passive. Like we have 2 long-term rentals and Airbnb. One short term. And so both of our kids were in the long term. The one of them we never heard a peep out of. Like her toilet seat broke. She mentioned it to my husband. He doesn't do anything about it. Months later, she says, oh, Dad, my toilet seat broke. And I was like, what? You have a broken toilet seat? And he's like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. She never says a word. She's the most low maintenance individual on the planet, right? She's super glued it back together. I mean, why wouldn't you just go get one? But that's not her. And so then the other one is like, Mom, I have a light that's burned out. Mom, we have a bug. Mom, it's just constant. And she's like, can Dad change this light? And she's like redecorating. I'm like, it's a rental. How long are you going to be there? Because we're not taking all these lights back down. Like, can I get a new floor? Could the toilet's not working? I'm like, I don't want to rent to you because you are fussy. It's just like two completely different renters. And so if you get the first one, life is golden, man. We got one phone call, maybe two in 3 years. Like, beautiful renter. The other one, a little more high maintenance.
Right. Yeah, you just never know. So it's good to pass
Right.
it on to someone else. You're like, here's the property manager's number. Make sure that you,
Yep.
and even then, like, you have to make sure it's a good property manager.
Yep. And then the Airbnb, we can go 4 guests without a phone call. Don't know who they are, never see them, nothing. And then we'll go 4 or 5 where there's one little thing every single guest. And you're like, geez, now I'm scared to leave town when I have a guest because
Yeah.
what if they need something? And so it is not passive.
It's
It is
passed
not.
on.
You know what's more passive is farm ground, Tarisa.
I
Because
know. Yeah.
you collect the check and the farmer just does their thing. They just take care of it because they are amazing stewards of the land. And so I am looking forward to that. Even though it's my brother farming it, he's still like, well, Mary Jo, I got to put lime on and I got to do this. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. Like, I don't
Right. Like, there's
care
no
what
toilet
you have to do.
requests.
Yeah. Do your thing. Where's my check?
You're like, it's dirt. You're like, it's dirt. There's no complaints about dirt. Hopefully. I don't know. There could be. I have no idea.
Well, the complaint was there's not enough lime in the soil. So yes,
Oh,
he does
okay.
have to put stuff on, but that's not my problem. I'm renting
Yeah,
it
he's
to
fixing
you.
it.
How you have to do your thing to get your stuff to grow. I'm not the one that has to put lime on for you, right? I don't have to go fix the toilet for you. You go do your own liming.
I love that. Okay, so walk me through. I know I love this story about you purchasing this property that I believe now is an Airbnb and how you were able to do that with your policy and just kind of like how quick did that transaction go? Like, what was it? What was the process like just for people listening? Because I think having like real life case studies and examples of how we're personally using our policies is so helpful for people.
Mm-hmm. So we bought a 40-acre spot that I found out they were selling and needing to move. And so I just reached out to them and said, hey, if you haven't listed this yet, we'd be interested in buying it. I would be interested in buying it, not we, because my husband was like, what are you talking about? I texted him. In all fairness, I texted him and said, hey, we're going to look at their property. Or I said, hey, the neighbors are selling. And he did not respond to me all day because he is not a texter at work. Like, he actually works when he's at work. And so he got home and I said, we're going to go look at that property on Sunday. And he's like, why? I said, because we're going to buy it. He's like, what do we want that for? I said, I don't know. I said, I don't know. We'll like rent it out or something, but I want it. And he's like, whatever. So we look at it and they needed to be gone in 20 days because his new job started in 20 days in Colorado. Okay. So they needed to move from North Dakota back to Colorado in 20 days. And so they were going to list it. Well, after looking at the property, there's no way that property would have passed a first-time homebuyer loan for FHA because there were so many things wrong with it that were not up to code. So I came in and I was like, okay, interest rates had just gone to 6%. They had gone from like 3 to 6. So I was like, ooh, strike number 1, they need to be gone in 20 days. And interest rates just went up on them. And this is a first-time home buyer. So the funds and the payment is going to be really, really tough for what they're asking. And they were not probably asking where they needed to be. And we had just bought our property a year before. So I still had all of our appraisals and I knew exactly like per acre what it was worth. I kind of had a guesstimate on what the house was worth. And so we were able to come in and I said, hey, I got the money. I needed to wait 10 days because I had just paid off a policy loan the day before we talked to them. So I paid off my policy loan, which means I needed 10 days for that money to clear before the insurance company would lend me my money back again. And so I said, I'm going to offer you and I offered them $100,000 less than what they were asking because I believe they were asking too much. And it needed a lot of work. And so I knew they weren't going to be happy with the offer. They were not thrilled with the offer. But I said, I can close in 10 days. You guys can stay there until the last day. I'm not going to charge you rent. Like, we're not going to do anything with it anyway. Just stay there. Like, whatever you need to do, we're happy to help. And they came back with an offer that said, okay, we'll accept your price and will you take our shitty pickup? And I'm like, I don't really want this old pickup, right? It is now Scott's favorite vehicle we have because it is his farm truck. And so we got a farm truck out of it. We got a property that needed massive, massive cleanup. Like, it took us a year to renovate and clean because it was so messy. And so I still overpaid, in my opinion. But
you overpaid with time.
I overpaid
probably.
with time. Yeah. Still married, so that's a bonus. But because I had access to that money, because I didn't need an appraisal, because I didn't need an FHA loan, we were able to close on that property we closed in 12 days. They stayed there until they moved, and then we didn't charge them rent. All was good in the world. Like, it was fantastic. But we were able to take advantage of the opportunity because we had cash.
Absolutely. On your terms, right? It's like you didn't have to qualify for a bank.
Right.
You were able to get the price that you wanted and how quickly they wanted. It's like if you cut out the middleman, a lot of things are super possible. So I just love that story about how you were able to solve their problem, right? They needed to get out of there, but also solve your own problem, which is like, hey, how can I turn this into something that's passed on so that I can make an income from it?
And I think here's another piece that is so awesome about that is we've remained in contact with them. And so when they come back to North Dakota, like, they came back their first year after being gone and we showed them the property. And if they ever come back, we'll just let them stay there for free. Like, it's it's a great relationship. They are vegan. And so they planted all these cool plants and edible trees and berries and all that stuff. And so we share that stuff with them because it was essentially their stuff, right? But we also, because the deal was done on a personal level, we both used realtors, but because the deal was done on a personal level, we also got to keep that relationship. And I think that I don't know what it's like in Arizona, but here in North Dakota, I want to know who I'm buying the house from. I want to meet them because chances are after I buy the house, I'm going to have questions about something in the house. And when we moved into our last property, there was this switch in the closet. And I'm like, what's that switch for? We're like, well, I don't know. We flipped it on and off. No lights turned on and off. Why is this in the closet? Whatever. Well, it was our pump for our sewer. And so our sewer starts backing up. And Scott figures out there's no electricity to the pump. And there's this switch that we played with the other day in the closet downstairs. Like, that must be for the sewer, right? But we still had contact with the homeowner. So it was really nice to be able to call and do that kind of stuff. I don't know if that happens in the big cities, but it does happen here in small town North Dakota. And so if you can do that and you can still get the deal and you can have those relationships, I think that that's great.
You know what's so fun to me about that story and just thinking about how things used to be done? It's like if I had something to sell and you wanted to buy it, it's like those are the two people that needed to agree. But just since banks have gotten involved and since all these third parties have gotten involved to make money off of that transfer happening, we've kind of gone away from the things that really matter, which is the relationship between two people that want the same thing to happen. And it's a little bit more removed. Like when I sold my property that we were short-term rentaling, however you say that,
renting.
Airbnb. Yeah. Like I need my second cup of coffee, apparently. What happened was that we had a baby shower and my mom got us a stroller and a car seat and she accidentally sent it to the old house. And at this point, it was like a month in. I was like, well, it says that this was purchased on the registry, but we don't have it. And so I looked at like the receipt history and I was like, oh, it got sent to that property. And so I had my real estate agent reach out to the lady and she was able to get me and her number. And she was like, oh my gosh, congrats on the baby. Like, so it was kind of fun. I was able to get my car seat and stroller and she seemed like she was enjoying the house. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. That happened to us too when we moved. And the people that bought our last house, are not nice people.
Uh-oh.
I have other names for them, but that is what I'll say in the podcast. They're not nice individuals. And so they have stolen mail. They have told us they haven't gotten anything. They are an absolute pill. Now,
Uh-oh.
we took the highest offer. I will never do that again. If I'm selling you a house and mail accidentally goes there, like that happens, okay? We've been here 5 years. The dude didn't live here for 3 before that, and we still get his mail. And I still text him and I'm like, hey, we got your insurance renewals or we got your bank information or whatever it might be, right? Like, it is just what you do. It's like, I don't know. For us, it's just the Midwest way. Like, I don't know where these people are from that bought our house, but we should have not sold it to them because they're ungrateful little turds. And so it is like my daughter ordered her prom dress, Tarisa. And
No.
she's like, Mom, I'm not getting my prom dress. And she goes, oh my God, I had it sent to their address and it's in their mailbox. I go, then grab it out. And I know that's a federal offense, people. I know that. But because I know they weren't giving us our mail and they were keeping it, like I had a whole bunch of Young Living oil, $600 a Young Living oil. And they're like, yeah, we never got it. Yeah, you did because Young Living never got it back. So there. Like,
You're like, interesting.
so yeah, those relationships are important. And people don't think about that because that kind of stuff happens. You don't think, oh, I just ordered a stroller. I better make sure it's the right address. And in my case, Young Living actually messed up. They sent it to the wrong address. I had the right address in. But my daughter was 17. She's not thinking about the address. Like, she lives here. This is where she's going to send it. So,
Well, my mom's not 17 and that
yeah,
happened. So it's just like, stuff happens. Hopefully the person is kind enough to give you your stuff back.
Right. Yep. And that is why, like, I like to be able to have an easy buy and sell. And if you can do that on a personal level, fantastic. If you don't have to keep the banks involved or get them involved and have nice realtors and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, it makes it just pleasant for everyone else.
Yeah. And so even like our investment properties have been fairly easy. Our personal properties, the selling of them has not been easy, but you do have to deal with people in the process. The moral of all of this is nothing is passive and thus that nothing is easy. And so the easier you can make it by using the money in your policy, the better off you are.
It's all about leverage, right? It's like, what's that book? Who, Not How. It's like, okay, if you're leveraging your money to purchase something that's cash flowing and you don't want to be the person that's managing it, then find your who.
Mhm.
Find your who to make your life easier. Because that's ultimately why we sold that rental, is because I just was so annoyed with it. And I feel like when I'm over something, I'm like, I really need to be done with it. I like, if I have this lady in my inbox talking about how she didn't bring her dogs and another lady in my inbox talking about wet dog, I'm going to lose it.
So the moral is, did you ever find out what happened?
No, I didn't. I actually ended up reaching out to that lady that went batshit crazy on me. And I was like, hey, I was like super level headed. I was like, I apologize. I did not know Airbnb was going to reach out to you. I was like, I'm a very personal person, like personable. I would have like asked you the question first. And that was my intention before they had reached out to you. So I was like, I'm not planning on pursuing anything. I just like apologize for the inconvenience. She totally could have brought her dogs. I'm like, the cleaning lady said there was a paw print on my couch. And I'm like, yeah, okay, you didn't bring your dogs, lady, whatever. But that's kind of like what you open yourself up to unless you have a who managing your stuff like you do. So be
Yeah.
smart and be like Mary Jo and have other people that you can manage that you trust, because it did not work out well for my peace of mind. Because I'm the type of person, it's like I like to cross my T's, dot my I's. Like if I got anything less than a 5-star review, I was so upset about it, because I'm like, I want people to have a good experience. Like I would write personalized thank you notes and give them like really great things to go eat or go listen to live music or things like that. So long story
And you
short,
really should be in hospitality. I'm not an entertainer. Oh, I don't remember who it was. Oh, my folks were at our house the other day. And I'm like, they were here for, I don't know, a couple hours. I'm like, do you want something to drink? Dad's like, yeah, that'd be nice. I'm like, well, my God, go get a cup. Like,
your parents are just parched at your house. They're like, is Mary Jo going to give us something to drink? That is so funny.
I am just not an entertainer. I just don't like, you're at my house. Just tell me what you want. If I wanted a glass of water, I'd be like, Tarisa, I need a glass of water. And so I think if you're in those industries, I do feel like you need to be a little bit hospitable.
Yeah.
The lady that decorated ours is like a party planner central, and she just is all about fun, and everything in her life is fun. And so people love our Airbnb, but none of that was because of me. I'm like, we don't need that, Gaiman. We don't need that. We don't need that. Why do you need all this stuff? Because I also am frugal. And now people love it because she went above and beyond, because she was planning it for her. And I'm just thinking everybody like me's gonna stay there, Stay and don't complain.
Well, sometimes I find that like the level is, I don't know what it is. I think like the standards for Airbnb are higher than a hotel, right? Because it's like you want access to all of the amenities of your own house. And then it's like if there's something that alludes to the fact that someone else has been there before you kind of get grossed out. You know what I mean? Even though hotels are like way nastier.
Yeah.
So you kind of become a little bit more high maintenance. You're like, I'm paying for this cleaning fee and paying for all these other things. So
yeah.
I know we kind of got
my thing
sidetracked.
With Airbnbs is I'm not taking out your filthy garbage. Like, figure out the who that's going to do that for you. Because that who is not me that's paying rent every day to be here. Like, OMG, if you tell me to take your garbage out and bring your garbage can back in, like my husband will do that with a smile on his face and not say anything about it. And I am just irate over the whole thing because I am not doing that for you. Like, oh, strip your beds. No, I'm not stripping my damn bed either because you have cleaners. Oh, start my laundry for me. Would you like me to make you dinner as well? Like, come on. And that is changing at our Airbnb. Like, you're not taking out the garbage. You're going to know that we're going to stop by and we're going to take the garbage out. I don't want you touching those sheets. Please don't make the bed. That's all I ask, and people still make the bed. But I want to see if there's stains on the sheets, if something's on the sheets. Like, that's easier to see that when they're on the bed. And so throw your towels on the floor. Half the people don't do that either, which is fine. Whatever. Pick them up. If it's not rolled up or folded, I'm sure it's dirty. And so, like, it's just nice to just be able to pick them up off the floor. But yeah, like, I don't want you to do anything. And then we do ask them to take the garbage out, but then we make more garbage cleaning up after them. So I'm like, why am I even asking them to take the garbage out? Because I took the garbage out and the bag probably wasn't full. So now I just wasted a bag because I'm super frugal and bags are expensive.
Yeah, well, and it's like you're paying for the cleaning fee. So why are you doing half of the cleaning work? It's like if you're staying somewhere, chances are, unless you're like really filthy as a person, which has its own set of problems.
After themselves anyway, then.
Well, right. But it's like most people are only there for a couple days. Chances are they're not spending most of the time on vacation at the place.
Right.
So it's not usually that messy. Typically.
All right, guys, we got long-winded.
Yeah, we got sidetracked. Whoops.
Oh, the good and the bad of real estate and our experiences in it. Okay, if you have comments, questions, concerns, Mary Jo at withoutthebank.com. If you need to schedule an appointment, go to the link, schedule an appointment with Tarisa or myself. We're happy to help. If you haven't got the books, go to withoutthebank.com, get your books, and you have a fantastic rest of your day.